put Mary Brunner up. Welcome.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you to the John Patriot group for inviting us candidates here tonight and giving us this platform to speak. I appreciate it. My name is Mary Brunner. I am also a native to Gillette, Wyoming. I went through elementary and a junior high here, and then I finished my schooling out in Moorcroft just because we lived in Rosette and it was a family deal. I have 4 school-age children, and I am a nurse by profession. I worked at the hospital in the ICU department for almost 14 years, and then left there during the COVID stuff. I did not agree with a lot of what was going on, and I kind of already had one foot out, so I figured, okay, this is the time to leave, and I went back to working at the Women's Resource Center. I am an advocate for life, both the unborn and the born, which is why I am running for the school board. I am very concerned with what is going on in our schools as a parent, but also as a member of society. We all are here, so we are all paying attention to what is going on in our culture. And I strongly believe that the indoctrination that is occurring at our university levels is starting at the elementary school level. Yes. It could not have gotten this bad if this hasn't been happening. And with what other candidates have said tonight, we have been asleep at the wheel. And maybe not all of us want to be up here. Not all of us feel comfortable doing this, but we all have convictions that are saying this is not right and somebody has to stand against it. So, if I say the word CRT, how does that make everybody in here feel? Yeah, right? Even if you don't understand the history of it and exactly what it is, we know that's not a good thing. If I say DEI, how does that make you feel? Does everybody understand what that is? Do you know that they've added another letter to that, another word, and it's DEIB?
What's that?
Belonging. Fitting, right? Belonging. So it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now belonging. Currently, our school board doesn't believe that CRT is in our schools. If you bring it up to them, they get angry, they get defensive. It's not in there. You need to prove it to me. I've been a part of the school district for many, many years. It's not in there. Okay, well, until we can get in those books and really dissect everything, it is kind of hard to just point out a certain, okay, this is what it is, because it really is a global concept. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, we can absolutely say is in our schools. Before these last 2 weeks, I could have said that the school district pays for our teachers to go to conferences that are DEI strong to learn more about that. You can see the staff that has been built up when it comes to the support staff, the counselors. The focus isn't so much on education as it is supporting our children and how they're feeling and how they're identifying. But in the last month, the school district has put out a new policy that has already passed its first reading. And I have copies. If you guys want to pass them around, you can look at that. So in here, it talks about gender identity is on the very first page. And that is an individual's personal sense of their own gender. This has been approved so far. And then on the second page, it talks about how the instruction of gender identity or sexual orientation is to occur in our classrooms. And it lays out the guidelines as to what's allowed and what's not allowed. As it continues, it basically says that this can be taught in our schools as long as you send a note home and the parents have noticed that it's going to be taught. So my question is, why is this even being taught? Why is this being put into policy? It's opening up the doors to a lot of things. And just the gender identity alone, does that mean that we're now going to be dealing with boys wanting to go into the girls' bathrooms, boys wanting to go into the locker rooms? This is very alarming to me, and we can push back on this. It is not final. They're going to have some public forums to where we can ask questions and dig into why they're looking at passing this. And if you want to know when those meetings are going to happen, just ask me after this. So this is concerning to me. I have my oldest daughter is athletic. She loves sports. We've already been fighting the culture of letting her play the sports that she wants to play. She wanted to be a baseball player. But as you get higher up when you get older, past even Little League, girls don't play baseball. Girls play fast pitch softball. So it was walking down the line of that of, can she play? It's different for boys coming over into girls. And I think that everybody in here knows that's very obvious. I also believe in school safety. So I believe currently our school district is doing a good job with the SRO officers with their school safety plans. But I think that we can go a step further. I would love to see a plan set in place for where parents are going to go if there is an actual school shooting or school violence. As we know, almost every kid has a cell phone, there's social media. We found this past school year that there were some threats at Twin Spruce and at Campbell County High School, and the first things that the kids do is they get on their phones. They get on Facebook, they are texting their parents, and the parents, rightfully so, are alarmed, and what do? They rush down to the school. I don't think there's any plan in place to say, okay, if there is an active violent action going on at this school, parents, you are not allowed to come on school grounds. You need to meet in this parking lot. And I think that plan needs to be developed for every school, and it needs to be communicated. School safety also includes bullying. I've talked to many parents that have had their children bullied at all levels in our school district, and it hasn't been handled well. So even some of them to the point where they pulled their kid out of the school district because it just wasn't being handled, and it was affecting their education. I believe in transparency with the school board. At this point, if you go to the school board meetings, it's very intimidating. You get your 3 minutes to speak, and they most of the time won't even respond back to you. Ben, a couple meetings ago, addressed the new Title IX changes with girls and boys' bathroom, or boys and girls' bathrooms, and he just got blank stares and not, okay, thank you, Ben. And he was just kind of brushed aside. I saw the same thing with parents after that Twin Spruce incident. A mom who was in tears asking, this happened, and I am so fearful for my child. And they didn't even hardly acknowledge that she was there talking. So I just think that's wrong. And that is why the school board is there. We are accountable to the taxpayers who are voting for us. And we need to listen. We need to listen to the parents. We need to listen to the teachers, and not have it be an intimidating platform and we're just going to appease you and listen to you for 3 minutes. So I would love to see open town halls, like have our public school board meetings, but then maybe quarterly have a town hall meeting so everybody can come, and it's just for the sole purpose of listening and addressing what the parents' concerns. And then obviously the curriculum. I think we need to get back to our basic curriculum and stick to that and stop playing around with all of the gender ideology and just stay focused. Like that stuff is going to happen. It's in our culture. It can be dealt with at home. It does not need to be addressed in our schools.
Good.
So once again, I'm Mary Brunner. I am an advocate for life, the unborn and the born, and I would appreciate your vote.
Yeah.
And do you have questions for Mary? Here we go. You've got questions.
Yeah.
Mary, you were aware also of bullying outside the classroom. There's also in the work environment too. They had a big issue with,
with the bus
with
part.
the bus barn,
Yeah.
and they didn't resolve it at all until, I'm going to take ownership because I made an issue out of it, and they finally quit talking about it and took care of it. But it takes that depth to get them people to talk to you or respond. You got to make them mad. You got to peel back the onion to see what it looks inside. If you don't do that, you're getting nowhere with that school board, and that's what we need to change for.
Agreed, and I believe that if you've got strong leadership at the top, then that's just going to trickle down to all the levels. Where if you have a small issue like that arise, it doesn't turn into a huge issue. It can be addressed quickly, and then it doesn't blow up like it did.
Instead of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, you just mentioned, that it starts at the top. And I was talking to 14-year-old young man that had been through bullying and all kinds of stuff, been to the counselors at the school and the hospital and everything, was suicidal. But when I asked him, you know, why doesn't, when you go to the principal and tell him this stuff, you know, what happens? And he told me absolutely nothing. I haven't talked to anybody that went to a school that had the principal actually do his job and get some of this stuff handled. And I was just wondering what, a school board could correct that if you had enough people on your side, I think. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a big mental health crisis in our community that is evident. I mean, like I said, I worked in the ICU for almost 14 years, and any suicide attempt or ideology, if they were medically unstable, would come to us in the ICU, and I would always volunteer to take the suicide ideation patients because I have a heart for teenagers that are going through hard times. I think that's a really heavy question to answer because it does take a lot of resources. When it comes down to just the straight up bullying, we do have policies. Not all staff members follow the policies like they're supposed to. So we do have some great schools, and this is just me talking to parents that handle bullying well, but a majority of them don't. Either both kids get in trouble or they just completely ignore it. I had one dad say that it was when the furries were a couple years ago. It was the fad, in my opinion. It was cool to be a furry. There wasn't any guidance from the higher ups as to how to handle this. So I think the teachers are scared, right? Because they're seeing what's going on nationally. If you speak against some of this stuff, then you get canceled or you get fired. So they didn't know what to do. Our school board was denying the fact that the furries were even in the schools. But his son got so tired of getting barked at in elementary school that he barked back and he got in trouble. So, and that was here in Gillette. So I don't know. I think it's just going to take really enforcing those policies, making sure that they're solid, and making sure that they're being enforced and handled well. And then that also goes back to listening to your parents. The school board has to listen to what's actually happening in the schools. They have to care, and they don't. So, yeah. Chris?
What are some things we should be talking to our children about after school? You know, like I talk to my nephew and ask him how things are going and what's going on, and how do you talk to your children?
So, and I'd like to go back a little bit. I don't mean to say that school board doesn't care. The illusion is there that they don't care when things aren't addressed, when issues are brought to them. I ask my kids, Chris, what did you learn about in school? What specifically did they say? Because they're going to answer differently, the boys versus the girls. Like, you may get a long response from the girl. She's going to give you every detail. And the boy's going to be like, I don't know, you know? So it will come out generally, but I just listen. And you sometimes asking the direct question, you're not going to get the direct answer with kids. So you just have to be around them. And also pay attention to what they're saying, because they're going to reverberate, you know, they're going to say what they learned. It'll come out in other ways. So you just have to pay attention. You have to be an engaged parent. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I think so. You know, I asked my nephew similar questions, and I didn't know that there was a kid in one of his classes that he was having issues with, and he was talking about how he made a new friend. And I'm like, okay, how did you make a new friend? And who is this kid? But apparently they were having some issues, and somehow they were able to resolve it, and you know, and become friends. And I was like, you know, that's admirable. You know, that's what we do, because we're always, you know, whether it's work, in the grocery store, you know, we always run into people that frustrate us or we don't get along with, and we got to figure out how to work with people.
Yep. Anybody else? Yes.
During the school board meetings, they always put all these things out. How open are y'all gonna be, or try to be, or how can you communicate better so people understand what you're gonna do? They are going to, when you're there, you can't ask them one question before they do it. So they're about to spend $10,000 on a program for Boys and Girls Club. Yeah, that'll get the rap and reading scat stuff, won't it? Gosh, I'm sorry, that's not what school's for. School is to read and, can we do 17% of the seniors that graduated this year, only 17%, were capable of college entry level studies. That's what we are producing here. Sorry, that's bad. We're not cheerleaders to somebody that doesn't do their job. It's not the teachers.
No, I agree.
It is the upstairs, because we have to take care of the Boys and Girls Club. And now we're adding a human geology book for another, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Text online, of course, about, what is it, youth? Oh, what's that word?
I know time's over.
What is that?
Anyway.
What is human genealogy? It's about teaching the kids how people change the earth, what people do to change the earth. That's kind of like saying, well, if God can build a rock big enough that he can't do anything with it, how are you going to answer?
To your point with the first part of your question, the real school
Sorry,
board
I'm not
meeting,
you.
I'm with you. The real school board meeting, in my opinion, happens before the public meeting. And it is the one that they have at 5 o'clock, Tim, is that correct? Is public, it's just not announced. The public doesn't know that it's public. I find that the 6 o'clock meeting is just for show. And you don't get that opportunity to ask the questions. I mean, I would guess that if you have questions, you need to actively be calling the superintendent, be calling the board members, talking to them after the meeting, asking your questions. And even then, right, Jack, sometimes it's hard to get those answers. But yes, I would absolutely love to change that.
I do it 2 hours for the curriculum director. Okay?
So, in my opinion, that it comes across as that's intentional. And that's another, just to stop, if it's gonna be that hard to talk to me, then people are gonna give up and stop trying to talk.
I have a,
Sorry.
sorry,
Susan was nice.
I have a yes and no, because we're out of town. When you get on the school board, will you look into where the ordering of the textbooks is happening and oversee that, because they are ordering CRT and even the language classes, so
Yeah,
we need somebody to tap into that.
Yes.
So,
Yes, I'm really excited to do that, and I wish that I could do that before. Yeah, so absolutely, yes, because definitely, we need to prove that it's there and then remove it.
okay.
Sorry, Jerry, did you have a question?
Yes, I liked your answer about let's go back to the basics. But most of the time we go to a school board meeting, they're always talking about we need to keep teaching according to the ACT test. We have classes because that's more important than what's the basics of the class. And almost every meeting we have, well, we need to spend more time studying for the ACT. And we avoid, and they'll tell you right up front that only 50% of the kids are even interested in taking the test. And yet we'll spend all that time forcing them to study for the ACT when they're going to do Christmas trees on their test.
Yeah, and actually the school district pays for an ACT prep teacher. I am a big advocate for trade schools, and we live in a blue-collar society here. I would love to see us match what we're putting into our sports, our athletics, and I am a sport mom, so I'm not saying that lightly, to teach our high school students trades, so they can actually leave high school with a trade. I would love to see that happen. And Spearfish is doing something like that, right, Bob? So that's something I also want to study up on and maybe research and see what other communities are doing, and maybe we can get something like that going in Campbell County.
Is there any way, or is there an idea on how the curriculum is checked? Because, I mean, there was a class in Lakeview last summer, or last fall, to where the kids were told if they wanted to participate, the boys changed their names to girls' names, and the girls changed their names to boys' names, and they would be called that name only in class.
That was at Lakeview?
At Lakeview, that's fact.
Yeah.
And then they were, so when the kids were getting on the buses, they were calling them by their class girl's name, a boy, and which it was, and this is in Gillette, Wyoming, and that's a curriculum class that the teacher was teaching in 5th grade, that they had the opportunity to basically identify as the other gender for whatever reason.
Yeah. So that is where we have to start standing up and pushing back. So when we get told this is not happening in our schools, we say yes it is, and we just stay persistent and keep at it. Because I did not know that. I'm sure there's anybody that wasn't involved directly with that doesn't know that that happened. I will share that, and that's alarming. But I definitely, if I were on the school board currently, I would take that and I would be addressing that. If you as a parent or grandparent came to me, I would be addressing that. Troy.
What's your opinion on the basket of goods?
So clarify this with me. The basket of goods, the education committee, they're the ones that decide the basket of goods and bring it forth to the committee as a whole, and you guys adopt it, and then that's what the suggestions are to the districts?
And then the district will take that and come up with their own curriculum.
Correct. And do we have any districts in the state that actually follow the basket of goods suggestions?
If you go to a school board meeting, I swear they do.
But I don't think any of them are. No.
Thank you, Mary.